So, 2 days ago, Gaijin updated the scout drones by giving them the ability to, well, scout. Previously, you could only put a fixed marker to warn your teammates of an enemy position. However, if the enemy was moving, you basically had to spam that marker to keep track of the guy and would end up clogging the radio chat with the sentence we all heard times and times again.
Recon reports enemy spotted.
With this change, I wanted to see if the drones were now completely busted, because scouting is an extremely powerful tool in this game, and you can almost reach the top of the scoreboard by just scouting. I proceeded to take the light vehicle with the scout drone and the lowest BR in my possession, and challenged myself to do nothing but drone scouting the entire game to see how effective that would be. The gameplay you see in the background is the very first game I've had while testing this new mechanic, and drones in general, since I've never used them before. Of all the games that I played like this, here's a few things I noticed. First of all, you have a longer cooldown on your scouting ability, to balance the fact that you become an all-seeing eye in the sky. You move from a 6-second cooldown to 18 seconds in realistic. Basically, if you spot enemies back to back, by my testing, you can have up to 3 targets constantly scouted before the first one you marked goes dark. This makes it so that you can't really spam the scouting all the time, and instead, if you really want to be useful to your team, you must make decisions on who to mark first, like who is the biggest threat. Scouting drones are also pretty good now to mark early rat flankers once the game just started. That way you'll let your team know that someone is already trying to go on a flank or is about to ambush you. Since the drone scouting follows the same rules as regular scouting, you still gain a reduction in SP cost for planes if the target you marked is defeated by an ally. This is the part that I don't really like about this whole buff for drones. Before, a light tank had to at least get out of spawn to make some points before jumping in a plane. Now you can just sit at your spawn, launch your drone, have your team kill the guys you marked, and just jump in a plane whenever you want. I wish Gaijin added the rebalance they plan to add in SP cost for spawning a plane at the same time as this drone buff to balance the whole thing, because right now, light tanks are even more powerful than before. Of all my games, I managed to reach the middle of the scoreboard fairly easily if the team was decent and reactive to the scouting calls. The big variable is the effectiveness of your team. Since you're not actively taking part in the action yourself, if you have a bad team, marking the enemies will be a bit pointless. That also raises another issue, and that is if multiple players start to stay the whole time in their drone. You'll be at a massive disadvantage because you have less players of your team on the front line to help you. The best way I can imagine to use this new feature is if you play with a friend. One is in a drone and the other in his tank, and basically the drone guy only focuses on you and your surroundings. As we said before, your marking potential is limited in a scout drone, so assisting only one player might be a viable strategy. From what I've seen so far, the community is pretty mixed and divided about this new change. Some enjoy the fact that you are now rewarded for actively trying to help your team with drone scouting, while others think it's a bit too overpowered, especially at certain levels. At the moment, I think the lowest BR vehicles able to send scout drones in the sky are at 8.3, which means 7.3 vehicles can face these flying little guys. Honestly, at 7.3 or even up to 9.3, even radar SPAs will struggle to shoot down drones, especially if they are high in the sky. They are very small and difficult to hit, even missiles struggle sometimes to track them properly. You then end up with a camera above your head that you just cannot get rid of, and which also makes stealthy approaches completely impossible. In the end, I personally think this change is okay-ish. The way they balanced scouting for drones makes it less broken than on light tanks, but it's still too powerful at certain levels. In my opinion, the scouting for drones should only be available at higher tier, while rank 6 vehicles would only have the old method to mark targets.
Recon reports enemy spotted.
I also don't recommend spending your entire time in a drone. It's pretty boring after a few games and you're not helping your team enough to justify doing it. The only time I would recommend doing that is only if you're in a stock grind and want to get your modules without suffering too much. Let me know what you think of the scouting for drones. I'm very curious to hear about you guys' opinion on the matter, especially if you often play at rank 6 and above. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.